Good morning, everyone. Thank you for waiting. You are very welcome to the video conference of the publicizing of the third quarter of 22 and the year of 22 of TAESA. Those that need simultaneous translation, we have this tool available on the platform. All you have to do is click on the button Interpretation. There's a global icon, and you can choose the language you prefer, Portuguese or English. For those who listen in English, you can mute the original audio. Just click in mute original audio. This is being recorded and it will be available on our website when the whole material of the publication of our results is available. You can do the download of the presentation in English also on the chat icon. You cannot open your microphones during the whole event. To ask questions, click on Q&A at the bottom part of your screen, write your question, and we will answer at the end. You can send your questions during the presentation, and they will be read live by Cristiano Jangeiro and Viviana Castelo and responded by the directors during the Q&A session. We highlight that the information in this presentation and declarations that might be made during the video conference about the business perspective, projections, and targets of TAESA are premises and beliefs of the management of the company, and also information that is currently available. Future considerations are not a guarantee of performance. They involve risks, uncertainties, and premises, and depend of circumstances that can or not happen. You should understand that general economic conditions and operational conditions can affect the future performance of TAESA and end up in results that are different than those expressed here. Now I will give the floor to Cristiano Grangeiro to start the presentation. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the presentation of the results of the fourth quarter of 2022. It's a pleasure to receive you all here. Remembering that you can ask your questions during all the presentation of the company and through the platform using the Q&A button. At the end of the presentation, we will then open some time for the question and answers, and where your questions will be clarified by the directors who are here. I hope you enjoy it. And so let's begin. We will now start the presentation and we will go to slide number 3, where we present the mission, the vision, the values of the company. It's important to reinforce here our guidelines, remembering that this work is work that was built and defined together by all the collaborators in 2022. So this was a very important mark defining the mission and the vision and values. This counter cover is used in all our internal presentations. We always start with this to reinforce who we are and what we want based on which pillars and values. Looking here at our mission to connect Brazil with safe and trustworthy energy, our vision to be the transmitter of power that has the most value for society. This is a wide scope with a capital letter, and our values to genuinely take care of people, act with integrity, build relationships of trust, excellency in everything that we do, and TAESA is us. Now let's move to slide number 4, where we introduce the advances of 2022 in the pillar of sustainability, which is a fundamental pillar of our strategic planning, with several topics that we advanced last year. Some of them was highlighted here. In the topic people, we have the certifications. The certification, A Great Place to Work, which is a certification that for 4 years we achieved, and we were considered one of the best companies to work in Rio de Janeiro, and also with a highlight to the energy sector. The other certification is related to the FIA employee experience. It's a company that has been analyzing the work environment for over 30 years in Brazilian organizations, and it should be highlighted for a series of competencies that were discussed, where TAESA was well evaluated when compared to other reference companies in organizational aspect. We're talking about careers, internal communication, corporate education, ESG, innovation, economy, leadership, life quality, recognition and compensation, and interpersonal relationships. In the safety front, we do have some interesting and important highlights. The first one is the inclusion of objective services of safety in the process of contracting our EP sisters, our partners, and the building of our business. It's an important evolution in safety, another important step here, and we discussed this last year. This is an advance where we would contract and purchase safety cameras for our team. This is an important advance to follow the teams and to really check that the safety norms are complied with by all the teams. In the awareness front, and we talked a little bit about this in the last quarter, we carried out a series of fora within the team of the topic of awareness of safety, awareness about health, and this has been intensified in TAESA. And also, as a result of all this work, we have seen a significant reduction of the rate of accidents in the company between 21 and 22. For you to have an idea, we have a reduction of almost 20% in the company and over 60% in the companies that we participate in. Another discussion that we presented here with you with the publication of the results last year was precisely the approval of the action plan of the matrix materiality. We discussed with all our stakeholders which would be the material topics. We reached 6 topics that would be worked on during the next years. And we did this direct link with some sustainable performance goals. We highlight 5 that were mapped within this action plan, and the clean energy, accessible energy, and 8 of decent and economic growth work, and 13 actions against the climate change, 15 of terrestrial life, and 16 of peace, justice, and efficient institutions. We also defined, with the participation of all the company, the mission and values of TAESA, as you saw in the previous slide. And linked to this, we approved the integrated management of the company. This is an important step to guarantee our processes, our policies, our activities, all the value chain that is associated to these reference practices of ISO. Important, remember that we have 4 ISOs that are part of this integrated management, and which is totally connected to our mission, our vision, our values, and long-term planning of the company. Diversity-wise, we have been working on a series of actions to bring diversity and inclusion in the company. Some interesting numbers where we highlight, first of all, that the women now are 20% of the leadership team of TAESA. This is a number important because the electric sectors and the education of electrician today is more masculine, and we've been doing work of including and preparing these women for the labor market. Also on the electrical side, connected to this, we have the training and the post-training of women electricians, where we had over 120 women participating, and some of them have already been admitted to work in TAESA. Also here, we highlight the increase of Black collaborators in our team, and that represent about 45% of the company. I think this is also an important advance to highlight in this pillar. And lastly, reinforce indexes, whether it be the CO2 related to the emission of gases, greenhouse gases, and also the GPTW, which is an innovative rate related to a great place to work. And we maintained ourselves in both indexes. So we are in the second consecutive year on the exchange, which is a reference of sustainability and ESG. Okay, folks, now let's move on to the effective results of the fourth quarter of 22 and of the year of 22. And we're now moving to slide number 5. The highlight of the year was the excellent performance of the net profit, regulatory profit. If you observe the chart looking 40 and 40, the profit went from 105 million to almost 400 million reals. So we had a performance of 267%. The results almost trebled if you compare. And if we look at the whole year, 21 versus 22, we left a regulatory net profit of 517 million to a profit of over 1 billion reals in 22. So it more than doubled in the comparison. This really is an excellent performance. And why is this performance so important? We have to remember that we have two types of accounting, the regulatory and the IFRS. The regulatory accounting reflects the effective cash of TAESA. That means that the generation of cash increased significantly, reaching 1 billion reals in 2022. In the next slide, we're going to show and detail better what is behind this excellent performance. Let's go. Well, now moving to slide number 6, and then looking a bit at this opening of this variation of the regulatory net profit, we observe an advance in almost all the lines of the accounts. Here, first, we see a growth of the EBITDA, about 366 million reals. And here I highlight the issue that we're effectively talking about, the operational cash of the company. So we had an advance of 366 operational million from 2021 to 2022. And also we had an advance in the asset equivalents about 92 million. So the main effects here are naturally what we've been talking about in the last quarters with the entry in operation of our new businesses. I'm going to highlight what this is all about, but 2022 was an important year in terms of delivery of projects. We delivered about 5 projects, 2 still partial, but they are in their final phase, and so we were able to contribute for this advance in the operational cash. Here also we have 2 lines, equivalents with EBITDA, and we have the effect of the new PAR cycle with an equationary readjustment of about 10 to 11%. So these 2 lines were affected by this advance, but naturally they have an important impact here. And I'm going to show a bit further forward in terms of the EBITDA margin, how much this was relevant. So it's important for us to advance with the delivery of these businesses. Another item of improvement was the financial result. Also as it is a net financial expense, we had a reduction of this. It was 68 million also in the comparison 21-22. It's a macroeconomic issue. When we compare the IPCA 21 to 22, there was a decrease. And so even with the advance of our net debt, we had a positive effect in the line of the financial results. And last, also, we have a positive effect in the income tax and social contribution on the net profit. Some effects I could highlight: the effect of the PCJ. We disbursed more PCJ 21-22, so more payments in 22 than 21, and this had an important fiscal benefit when we compare the 2 years. And with this, we had a reduction in the lines of income tax. These are the main reasons that explain this advance of the regulatory net profit, and I think it's cool for us to show how this effectively impacts the margins. So looking a bit at the opening of the EBITDA, you will see that the EBITDA line had an evolution of 1.5 in 2021 to 1.9. This means that the EBITDA increased 24%, a little more than 24%. And this, as I said, has the inflation effect, but especially the projects, the advance in 2022. If you look, this also has a very relevant effect in the margin, in our margin that went up from 82.5 to 8.4.5%. So we're talking about 2 percentage points of growth in the margin because the new projects have been concluded, delivered with EBITDA margin above the margin of the consolidated TAESA. So this is a point that's super important as we're talking and telling everyone. Our participation in the auctions are always with the goal of aggregating value to our business and generating value to our shareholders. And here is the proof of this declaration. We've advanced a lot to bring TAESA and EBITDA that really adds value to our business. We should remember that we also have projects of the participants, and these projects, they show up in the asset equivalents. Just to give you an idea, we consider EBITDA all the concession, all those that participate. We're talking EBITDA that closed 22, 2.5 billion reals. This is a historical mark in the company. If we look at all the history of the company, 2.5 billion in reals in terms of EBITDA is the largest EBITDA volume that we've ever reached in our history. So it really is very important for our business, and this shows the success and the evolution of our strategic planning based on the pillars of sustainable growth, financial discipline, operational efficiency, and value generation to our shareholders. Now let's move to slide number 8. Here we have all the businesses that were delivered recently and that directly impacted the results of 2022. Starting by Janaúba, which is a relevant project for the company. In the states of Bahia and Minas Gerais, we delivered it in 2021 at the end of September. And when we compare 21 to 22, it also has an impact in the comparison. So we are talking of a project of 258 million of PAR in the current cycle. Another project that was delivered at the beginning of the year was ESTE, which is a project within the TBE group that it's the states of Minas Gerais and Espírito Santo, and it added a PAR of almost 75 million reals from last February. Santana was a project that we delivered in 12 months before the term, and we delivered this in April 22. So we're now in the second phase of this project, and we've delivered up to 55%, and we added 43 million PAR for this project. After this, Santana, which was in April, then November, and then Aimorés, a project of the AEIE group in partnership with CTEEP. We delivered this in May, and we added for the company almost 53 PAR. In July, we delivered Paraguaçu 2022. It's also a project between the states of Bahia and Minas Gerais, almost 400 million kilometer of extension. And we also added for TAESA, a project in partnership with CTEEP. We added almost 79 million PAR for TAESA as of July. And lastly, we have the Ivaí project, which is our largest project, almost 2 billion of investment. And we delivered up to now about almost 90% of this project in 2 phases. The 2 phases took place in November, and we are at the final step of this delivery of this project, and it has been added to the company, and it has added, to the company about 176 million reals of PAR. So what we're talking about is a deliver of a total PAR of over 682 million reals. This is a very relevant contribution to our business, over 680 million of PAR, and that explain this excellent performance and the results of 2022. In slide 9, we observe the performance of the company operational-wise. 2 important indexes that we always follow. One is the availability index, and in this index here, we can see how the company has been performing in a very solid manner. Availability numbers have always been close to 100%, but when we look in comparison to 21-22, we see an improvement. And when we get to 2022 with a performance of 99.95%, that means very close to 100%. And this shows excellent performance and dedication with hard work from all the technical team, the operational team, the maintenance team, to guarantee that our lines maintain themselves very close to 100% availability for the interlinked national system. When we look at the variable installment, here we have a discussion about events of other years, the provision, reversion that are being discussed in management, legal processes. And when we look at 22, the VP over the PAR, which is the percentage, was 2.39% above last year. But when we exclude these effects from the provision and reversion of other years, our VP closed the year in 1.23, a bit above the previous year. Some events are being discussed in administrative and legal processes. Among them, there's one event that took place in the last day of last year, an Nova Trans concession, which is due to the sabotage of public goods and the national system, and this is being dealt with something that has nothing to do with the company. In slide number 10, we present the indebtedness of TAESA, always considering the numbers with the proportional consolidation. That is, with the values and the sums of our participations proportional to our participation. When we look at the closing of the year in 22, we closed with a net debt of 9 billion reals and a leverage level around 3.65%. As we had been observing for a while, ever since last year, we went from a leverage of about 4.2, dropping until we got to 3.65. So we had already commented this reduction trend due to the new products that started operation. When they start operating, we can add EBITDA, operational cash to our business, and naturally the deleveraging starts taking place. Now, if we look at the debt amortization of TAESA, we have a very adequate profile. If you observe here in the chart, with payment, short term for amortization of around 600 million reals. Considering our cash position, we closed the end of last year almost over 1.4 billion reals. It's comfortable to pay all our short-term obligations. The average debt cost in reals at the end of 22 was 5.2 when we consider a pre-tax before payment of the taxes, and about 4.1 when we already consider the effective number of the company. That means after the payment of taxes, the average term considers about 5 years, which is very comfortable, and our index debt is concentrated, the IPCA, about 3/3 of the indexed debt, and the rest linked to CDIs. The company does not have financial covenants of leveraging, and we're also very well evaluated by the risk credit classification agencies in Brazil and national scale. We're talking Moody's, Fitch, classified TAESA with the highest number of risk, AAA, which is very important when we get financing for our business. And since we have a different position in the debt market, it puts the company in a competitive position, including when we participate of auctions and M&A. And finally, in slide 11, we highlight TAESA's success in the last auctions, and we also present a new reinforcement that was authorized recently by ANEEL. Ananaí was the first and the largest lot that we got in the auction of December 2021. It's between São Paulo and Paraná. The investment is 1.75 billion reals, and the PAR is 160 million. It is a short-term project, and we should deliver in 60 months. Pichiguari is lot 10, which we got in the auction of June 22. It's a smaller project, about 250 million of capex and a PAR of almost 20 million reals. The time frame of this project is 54 months, and it is in the state of Santa Catarina. The lots that we got more recently were 3 and 5 of the auction of last December. The first one, 3, is Tangará. This is located in the state of Maranhão, a little piece of the state of Pará. The investment is 1.1 billion reals and a PAR of a bit over 100 million. Lot 5, which is called Saída, is in the state of Rio Grande do Sul, and it also takes a little piece of Santa Catarina. The investment is 1.2 billion, and the PAR is almost 170 million. The specificity of Saída Lot 5 is that it is a lot that there's a piece of the project that has already been built. We say it's almost a brownfield inside a greenfield, because part of this project is an asset that has been returned to the union by Enel, and that's where TAESA, after the auction, has to indemnify Enel 900 million reals until the signature, the contract is signed. The forecast is 30th of March. Once we pay this indemnity, and after the signature, after the 31st of March, we receive about 70% of the PAR of this project. It's very interesting because it's a brownfield project, and the other installment are revitalizations that have to be done in this project, and the time is about 60 months. Both projects, the lot 3 and the lot 5, will have the concession contract signed on the 30th of March. That means at the end of this month. We've also talked about the new reinforcement of Nova Trans, which was authorized by ANEL. These are two authorizations. One is 12,823, the other one's 12,850, that allow for the reinforcement of capacities and substations. Nova Trans is one of our main lines that cut the north of the center of the country in the states of Maranhão, Tocantins, and Goiás. This project is a large project, and it needs investment of over 260 million reals, and it guarantees us a PAR of 45 million reals for TAESA after the delivery. The regulatory term of these two resolutions, these reinforcements, are 30 months of conclusion, and as I said, it is a large project. With this, we're talking about 5 projects that are now in our pipeline, 5 new projects that were recently got recently, and with this we have a total capex for TAESA. We're talking about 4.5 billion reals to be invested in the next years. So we're talking about the regulatory frame up to 2027, and this guarantees us a PAR addition once concluded each one of these projects, an addition of about 500 million. We're talking about 493 million with the conclusion of these projects. So this is a huge advance for us and an important step in the advance of our strategic planning long term, which is based on sustainable growth and generation of value for our shareholders. With this, we end our presentation of results. We hope you enjoyed it. And now we're going to move on to the session of Q&A. So, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Cristiano. Right now, we're going to open the Q&A session. This is going to be live, and we're going to have the directors of the company participating. To ask questions, you should click on the Q&A icon on the bottom part, and you should write your question and join the queue. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for the participation of everyone. So let's start. We have here André Moreira, Director, President, Finance, Leonardo, Technical, Director, New Businesses, Fábio Fernandes, and Luiz Alves, Implementation Director, who's remotely with us today. Now, let's start with some of the questions. We've already received several of the questions, so let's start with the first one that comes from Luiz Oliveira. Congratulations for the continuous improvement. How do you see the company in 10 years? And what do you do in relation to the competition? Thank you, everyone. We have almost 800 people here participating. It's very interesting. It's a wide scope. Well, Luiz, thank you for your question. We have continuously, annually, in 2021, we launched our strategic planning, and one of the sides, one of the important parts of this within the strategic planning is growth. You've seen this in the results that Cristiano has just showed us, the increment in the last years in the acquisition of lots. We bought in the last 4 years an important investment, 4.5 billion and almost 500 million. This is to maintain the sustainability of the country. And there are also other parts of sustainability. He talked about this in the beginning, several topics of sustainability, efficiency of capex and opex. Just for you to have an idea, last year we had an improvement in efficiency of over 10 million of OPEX. So this is already giving us an effect. We also have regulatory, we're participating in the renewals and the concessions. We have some concessions that start expiring in 2030. And we also have an important pillar with the governance, how to improve the governance of the country. So what I can say to you is that we're very well positioned. We're following our strategic plan. Of course, we revisit this every year. It's planning for 10 years and to continue delivering results and keeping the company healthy. So thank you very much, and I'll be back soon. Well, thank you very much, Andrea. Good morning, everyone. The next question is Ayrton de Oliveira Dias. It's a question about dividends that I believe is the question of a lot of people, and I'm going to direct this question to our financial director, Leonardo. So how are these payments for 2023? Well, first of all, good morning to everyone. Ayrton, thank you very much for the question. Well, first of all, let's talk about the history of the dividends of the country and of the company. In the last 3 years, we've paid over 4 billion dividends. Just in the last 15 months, we've paid 2 billion, and in 2023, 460 million. So the nature of the company is to be a payer of dividends. But we remember that the dividends are based on the statutes of the company and the profit. So we have to pay at least 50% of the net profit. So the company will always look at these three things: opportunities, dividends, invest in new business, and also the issue of leveraging. So this is the nature of the company. Thank you, Leo. I'm going to take the opportunity of talking about this and ask a question of Ivan dos Santos Torres. He's saying, why is the regulatory profit different to the net profit? Can you please elaborate on this? Because we have other questions about cash drop of profit. Well, I'm going to try to explain this in an objective way. The net profit is it's influenced by the IPCA and the EGS, especially the IGPM, the largest part of our assets. Now, the net regulatory is the result. It is very related to the generation of cash. And this year, Cristiano presented the regulatory result. We had a significant increase due to the new projects where we invested in the last years and that were ready in 2022. So basically, this is the difference of the two types of profit. Thank you very much. I'm now going to give the floor to Luis Alves. He has a question. Well, good morning. Congratulations. He has two questions. The second one, Leonardo has answered. Well, about the new acquisitions, what are the dates of delivery and the beginning of operations of Pierre? If you could talk a little bit about this question, it would be very good. Perfect. Well, thank you very much for your question. So in this auction in December, we had the winners of lot 3 and 5, and the 3 Tangará. These are expressive. Tangará in the area of Maranhão and Pará. The time frame is March, and the PAR is 100.7 million reals. Now, the Alto Saída also has a term of revitalization of the installations to March 2028 with a PAR of 167.7. One difference of this Lot 5 Saída with the signature of the concession contract, we have taken over the operation and the maintenance of the business, which is composed of two conversing substations with an interlinking to Argentina, and also the operation and the maintenance of 370 of lines, 500 kV. From April on, we have the right of 72% of the PAR because that we won in the lot. So this is important for us, and we work and we have the time frame determined by ANEL, 6 months, and always looking for efficiency and the reduction of this time frame. So Paulo, thank you very much for your question. The next question that we have is about growth, and I'm going to pass this on to Fabio. Okay, Fabio, the investor asks, what is the strategy of the company to continue acquiring lots in futures auctions with good prices due to the competition in the sector and also the foreign competition that is coming along? Well, good morning, everyone. Osmar, thank you very much for the question. Yes, in TAESA, we think of growth, we think of M&A composition. We think this 365 days a year. It's in our planning, in our DNA, and we have very intense work involving a lot of departments, a lot of people, a lot of collaborators of the company. It's work that starts, we say when one auction finishes, we start thinking on the other one, and we work in a very integrated way with our engineering area, supply area, the new business, all the everyone integrated to get the best synergy and the best opportunity in each auction in the year. So this work of intense research of creative solutions in our engineering area, together with partnership and with strategic partners, allows us to participate in the auctions in a very aware way, always observing our pillars, as was mentioned, of financial discipline, operational excellency. So always based on these pillars, we participate in a very aware way, and we're able to get gains in a significant way and with good profitability. So I think this is our secret. This is the way that we participate. And to imagine that we are 43 concessions spread in all Brazil, this gives us a capacity of getting synergy in the lots that are presented to ANEL. So thank you very much. And we are available for any further clarification. The next question goes to André. It's about diversity. André, the topics, the results of diversity, these were reached organically or with targets? Well, Osvaldo, thank you for your question. We always discuss this matter. We incentivize through some targets, not only this, but all this project of inclusion and diversity. We think that there's still space through observing the targets, the values of the company, and the competencies that are necessary for this function. So all of this together, we've done an important increment in our publicity goals. Thank you, Andre. I'm now going to give the question. We are we have a lot of questions. Some are repeated. We have one from this 1 minute. Here we are. Given the level today, it's from Julia of Santander, and the growth, how are we going to grow the dividends? I think if you can elaborate a bit more. Julio, thank you for the questions as we talked about it. So we recently got 1 billion CDI plus 1.5 and to finance the asset that we got in the lot 5 of December. So we noticed that even in the stress market, TAESA always has attractive rates. And how does this affect the company? It affects directly, but TAESA is always getting this balance. So also the return, TAESA has to grow. It's within our strategic planning, and we will have to go after this balance for the next years in the company. Thank you, Leo. The next question is about growth. We've talked about this, so I'm going to direct this question to you, Fabio. How do you evaluate the profitability to get a concession? Who asked? The investor Claudio Aragão. Hello, Claudio. Thank you for the question. And as I said before, the study that TAESA does is a very detailed study for each thing, each one that we participated. And as Leonardo said, our capacity of always getting funding, accessing the capital market, accessing banks. So you have a lot of you have a lot of things that can support these investments, and together with our technical expertise and our capacity of developing creative solutions, we put all this together and we position ourselves always with getting enough return for our shareholders, and that gives us a good return. So when we study, this is all done in a very specific way. So when TAESA participates and when we offer a value, we know that this bid is something that we will have profitability that has to do with the market, always looking long term, and also with the rates that are practiced by the market. So we have this awareness, and we are also always very careful so that we'll have the return that we want for our shareholders. Thank you, Fabio. Now the question for André, which is, are there any perspectives to invest in solar and wind energy or power? Thank you, Cristiano. We are not today. We don't have in our strategic plan any perspective to invest in these two types of energy, wind and solar. What we evaluate and what we would have some entry, some service of connection with transmission lines, substations, but not in generation. Okay, thank you for your question, and thank you for allowing us to clarify this. Thank you. The next question is from the analyst of Itaú. She asks, she would like to know the expectations for the next auctions, especially the one in June, and if we're looking at any specific lot, and if we are going to join a consortium. Can you comment, please? Thank you, Julia. Thank you for the question. Yes, of course, we say that the next day after the auction that we participate, we already start looking at the next one. It's always the most important. The next auction is always the most important. So June is very important. We're talking about a total investment of 16 million divided in 9 lots. And all these lots, we don't have a clear definition of participation. And we're also evaluating possible partnerships due to the size of the lots. But we still haven't closed this, but you can count with the participation of TAESA for sure. Thank you very much. Thank you, Andre. Now taking the cue, I'm also going to pass on to you, Roger. He talks about the expiry of concessions, and this is a drop of the PAR. How do you see this? And this will take place as we move forward. Well, Roger, thank you very much for the question. I was able to clarify this in the first question that was asked in our strategic planning. We already have this very well mapped, this proximity of 2030. We started having a drop in the RAP, but on the other hand, in the last auctions, I think we've already mentioned a lot. We have all this recomposition, which is already ongoing. So within this plan of growth of TAESA, we have forecast this recomposition given our perspective of maintaining ourselves as relevant actors of transmission in Brazil. Thank you very much for your question. Well, thank you. I'm now looking at the questions. Some of the questions are repeated. Some have been replied, answered. And when we talk about dividends and leveraging, so the question is the following. Safra analyst, thinking in 2023, how do you see the perspective of supply of materials? I'm going to give this to our implementation director to answer. Thank you, Danielle, for the question. This is always a point that we discuss, and especially this year, where we have an estimate of 130 million reals. Within this value, we have an investment of which is a very specific equipment. So this can reach about 30 million reals. So when we talk about the material, we have done several deals with several partners in Brazil, and we've also gone after other suppliers in other countries, especially in Europe and the United States, where we see that due to the time frame of these execution, we have lots of 48 months, 60, 66. So you are able in these lots to include the supply of these materials, but it's very important the prior work where we come into the bid with all this mapped so that we don't have any future risk in these businesses. All this is discussed in the pre-auction phase, but thank you very much for the pertinent question. Thank you, Louise. We're still going, talking about the questions, talking about the good result, the excellence result. We're trying to see if there's any other question that we can respond. So I'm going to now answer Rogério Valente's question. How is the company seeing the free market of energy, and how does it interfere with the businesses of the company? Well, Rogério, thank you very much for the question. There's no interference directly in our business in the free consumers. We've been following this topic for quite a while, but one way or another, a lot of clients, a lot of companies are wanting to improve their energy matrix, buying renewable energy from wind and solar energy, and also offshore wind. We're starting to discuss this. So this opens future perspectives also for transmission with the interlinking of these parks through transmission. So not directly, but indirectly, yes, this can affect and increase the possibility of new investments in the country. Thank you very much for the question. Thank you, Andrea. Well, we're reaching the end of our presentation. Some other questions, repeated questions. Some people arrived late, but we also are at your disposal to answer individual questions later. There is a topic here that is always good to talk about, which is some people ask about if there's any new fact about TAESA, Semigi, Andrea. I'm going to, well, first of all, thank you for the question. Our positioning is always the same. We've done the management of TAESA, looking internally, improving the company in all aspects, and we have not talked about the movements of our shareholders. So what we have to say, we don't have a lot to say, but we can state that the management of the company works independently to the movement of the shareholders. Thank you very much. Well, once more, I have some repeated questions, but we are available to answer your questions if you wish. Some people that didn't participate, it will also be recorded, so feel free. And the questions have ended here, and I'd like to give the floor to André for his final considerations, and so that we can close. Well, once more, we'd like to thank you for your participation. We'd like to affirm our commitment of delivering better and better results, our capacity of transmission. We have this capacity reinforce this in a very responsible and disciplined way, and taking care of people. We have this commitment to genuinely take care of people, guarantees safety in all the aspects related to the life quality of our collaborators, though that surround us, the community. So take care of all the stakeholders and deliver differentiated values to our shareholders. We will continue being a company that pays good dividends, invests in auctions, in M&A processes, and go after better opportunities. Congratulations to everyone. Congratulations to believing in us, and you continue believing. We have a lot of good things coming in 2023. Thank you to everyone. Have a great day.